I always thought earthquakes were the worst the earth could throw at us. I was wrong. The first tremors came without warning. They weren't violent, not the kind that tossed furniture across rooms or cracked open highways. No, these were different, softer, almost careful, as though something beneath the ground was testing its strength. At night, while I lay in bed, I could feel it thrumming through the mattress, a low vibration that rattled the glass on the nightstand. At first, I told myself it was my imagination. Maybe the subway lines beneath the city, maybe distant construction. But it didn't stop. People began reporting the same sensation across the continent. From the suburbs of Toronto to the high plains of Montana, the ground pulsed with a steady rhythm, faint but undeniable. I remember standing barefoot in my backyard just to feel it, and what chilled me wasn't the shaking itself, it was the pattern. A beat, slow and deliberate, almost like a heart. The scientists on the news looked uneasy. They tried to explain it away, but the words felt hollow even as they said them. Not tectonic, one seismologist admitted, adjusting his glasses nervously. Too regular, too rhythmic. That's when I knew we weren't dealing with plate shifts or fault lines. This was something alive. Something moving. Within days, reports poured in of strange phenomena. Animals fled forests en masse, birds swarming in chaotic flocks, dogs howling long into the night. Farmers claimed their cattle refused to graze, trembling as though they sensed an approaching storm. The coppery taste in the air was the final confirmation. You could lick your lips and taste it, metallic, raw, wrong. I worked as a field geologist, but no textbook had prepared me for this. Something was stirring beneath North America, and every instinct I had screamed that it wasn't finished waking. 2 weeks later, it broke through, and nothing in my life has ever felt the same. The desert swallowed itself in silence first. The military had cordoned off the area, calling it an underground collapse, but those of us on the inside knew better. Whole chunks of the Nevada testing range vanished overnight into a vast sinkhole. The ground didn't crumble naturally, it was pulled, as if something from below had yanked the land inward. Drones went in first. I stood with a small group of scientists and soldiers, watching their feeds flicker on a wall of monitors. At first, the footage showed endless shafts of jagged stone, descending into what looked like an abyss. Then, without warning, the static hit, violent, sharp, cutting through every channel. For half a second, one image came through before the feed went dark. It was blurry, distorted, but I swear I saw an eye. Vast, glowing, watching. The soldiers in the room stiffened. Some exchanged nervous glances, others barked into radios demanding explanations. No answers came. The drones never returned. Their signals simply vanished. By sunrise, satellite photos leaked. The crater was impossible to hide, a wound in the earth stretching wider than a football stadium. Its edges were scorched, blackened as though heat had poured out of the ground with impossible force. The official explanation was laughable: gas pocket ignition. People weren't stupid. Something had come up. When my transport touched down near the site, the air already smelled burned, metallic. Heat shimmered from the blackened pit, and though no one wanted to admit it, every one of us felt it, that prickle on the back of the neck, that sense of being studded. I leaned over the rim, and deep in the shadows, something moved. Something vast. Something waiting. We thought we knew Earth. We thought every corner of it had been mapped, every secret recorded by satellites and deep Earth scanners. We were wrong. The instruments deployed into the Nevada chasm sent back readings that made no sense. Beneath the surface stretched not just caves but vast hollow expanses, some large enough to hold entire cities. The walls weren't jagged like natural caverns. They were smooth, curving in arcs and angles, too deliberate to be the work of time and water. It looked carved, as though someone, or something, had shaped it long before humans ever walked upright. When the data came in, I remember the silence in the command tent. Scientists who lived their lives by logic and numbers just stared at the screens, pale and wordless. Eventually one of them whispered what we were all thinking. Asterisk, this isn't natural. That asterisk, the military brass dismissed it as geological anomaly, but I could see it in their eyes. They didn't believe their own words. That night, unable to sleep, I searched the digital archives for anything, any myth or legend that might match what we were seeing. I found it buried in an anthropological database, an old Native American story told by the Apache. Asterisk the serpent beneath the mountains. Asterisk a guardian, they said, placed deep within the earth to keep balance, to keep the world safe. It had slept there for ages, bound beneath the land. I remember reading those words with my flashlight trembling in my hand. Because the pattern matched. The rhythm under our feet, the way the ground pulsed like a heartbeat, it all aligned. Humanity was never supposed to dig this deep. The earth itself had sealed something away, and we had torn the lock open. And now, whatever had been imprisoned, was stirring. The first creature didn't arrive with fanfare. It rose in silence, and silence, I learned that day, is far more terrifying than thunder. In Denver, people woke to a shudder that rattled windows out of their frames and buckled pavement. At first, they thought it was another quake, but then the streets split wide, swallowing cars whole. From the fissure came a glow, molten, golden, like the heart of a furnace. I was there with the forward team, monitoring instruments when the ground heaved beneath us. The asphalt tore open as something pushed upward, forcing its way through layers of stone like paper. When it finally emerged, I felt my body lock in place. It was taller than any skyscraper, plated in black scales that caught the sun like obsidian mirrors. Each movement sent showers of stone cascading down. Its head turned slowly, eyes burning like molten ore, and for one sickening instant, I knew it was looking at me. The military was ready, or at least they thought they were. Jets screamed overhead, their missiles streaking toward the thing. The explosions lit the sky, but the creature didn't stumble, didn't even bleed. Tank shells ricocheted off its armor like pebbles against steel. Then it roared. I had never known sound could feel like a weapon. Windows shattered for miles. People clutched their ears as blood ran down their necks. My vision blurred, my skull throbbed as though it would split. And just when it seemed it would finish us, the monster did something no one expected. It stopped. It tilted its massive head skyward as if listening to something deeper than us. Then, with terrifying ease, it folded its colossal body back into the ground, burrowing east, leaving behind only fire, ruin, and a silence more dreadful than its roar. We weren't defenseless, though in those first days it felt like we might be. For decades, governments had prepared for the possibility of extraterrestrial invasion, never dreaming the threat would come from beneath our own soil. Hidden in bunkers, buried in secret labs, they had been building weapons humanity wasn't ready to admit existed. Orbital platforms armed with rail cannons that could drop slugs at hypersonic velocity. Plasma drills designed to bore through asteroid cores but retrofitted to burn through flesh and armor. And then there were the prototypes, machines so advanced they were whispered about like myths among military engineers. I never thought I'd be anywhere near one. I was a scientist, a geologist, not a soldier. But when the Denver creature vanished back into the earth, tearing eastward, the call went out. The enemy wasn't waiting. We had no time for training camps or drawn-out strategies. Anyone with relevant expertise was drafted into service, willing or not. That's how I found myself staring up at ***atlas. It was more than a machine, it was a titan. A humanoid frame of alloy and armor, towering stories high, its limbs powered by nuclear fusion reactors. Built for a war we'd never fought, it looked less like technology and more like myth-given steel and fire. The cockpit was a womb of controls, a cradle of neural link systems that let a pilot move it, as though it were their own body. The soldiers called it humanity's last card. I remember laying my hands on its cold plating, feeling the hum of energy beneath. I wasn't trained to fight, but the truth hit me then, none of us were. We were outmatched, outnumbered, and out of time. And yet, for the first time, humanity had teeth. They weren't just one. That was the mistake we made at first, believing Denver's monster was unique, some isolated aberration. The truth revealed itself within days. From California to the Great Lakes, the earth split and belched out nightmares. Some crawled like armored serpents, their bodies coiling around skyscrapers until steel bent like straw. Others towered on jagged limbs, insectoid titans whose screeches shattered glass and sent people fleeing in blind panic. Each one was different, as if they had been sculpted from the darkest corners of imagination. I remember watching the news feeds, one city after another falling into chaos. Highways broke like toy tracks. Bridges crumpled into rivers. Entire neighborhoods disappeared under the weight of creatures that should have only existed in myth. For every missile we launched, for every desperate counterstrike, the monsters just pushed forward, indifferent, unstoppable. Humanity was a nuisance, nothing more. But then we saw something that changed everything. They weren't allies. They were rivals. In Chicago, two of the beasts clashed in the open, tearing into each other with claws and teeth while humans scattered like ants beneath them. Their roars drowned out sirens. Their blows cracked buildings in half. For hours they fought, ignoring us entirely, until one collapsed in a heap of steaming flesh, and the victor burrowed back underground. That was the moment the military saw a sliver of hope. These things weren't a united force. They were territorial, primal, and that gave us an opening. With Atlas and the other hidden weapons, we began to push back, not just defending cities, but following them down into their tunnels. For the first time, we weren't running. We were learning to fight in the dark, where they thought they ruled. Humanity was hunting now. In the deepest cavern, we finally understood the truth. The tunnels weren't just homes or lairs, they were prisons. Not of our making, but of something far older. Massive, twisted remnants of creatures lay shackled by stone and energy barriers, their forms frozen in time, yet still alive, still watching. The sheer scale of it was incomprehensible. Some of them were larger than entire city blocks, others coiled like serpents through the caverns, their eyes dimly glowing in the darkness. It took hours to move through the labyrinth. Every step echoed in the hollow chambers, reminding me of how small we truly were. And then we found the largest of them all, a titan whose wings stretched across the cavern ceiling, each scale glowing like molten rock. Its eyes opened the moment we approached, and I could feel its mind pressing against mine. No words, no sound, just thought. Pure, ancient intelligence that wasn't curious, wasn't angry. It was assessing us. You woke us, I heard in my mind. It wasn't fear. It wasn't malice. It was warning. You will regret it. I staggered back, gripping Atlas controls like a lifeline. The truth hit me with a weight heavier than any missile or cannon we had unleashed. We hadn't awakened a single threat. We had awakened a species older than human civilization, predators that had been imprisoned for reasons we might never understand. And yet, for all their power, there was something in their assessment that gave me hope. They didn't see us as prey. They saw us as rivals, equals. I looked at my fellow pilots, scientists, and soldiers, feeling a unity I had never known. Humanity had always been underestimated, always been dismissed. And now, standing in the heart of their domain, facing the oldest enemy the Earth had ever seen, we were ready. They had been stirring beneath North America, yes. But perhaps they had been waiting for us to rise, to prove that the species that walked above their prisons could stand, fight, and survive. And humanity? We were not going to fail.